Welcome, traveler. Come in from wherever you have been today. Set it all down. The weight of the day, the noise of the world, the thoughts that have been circling since morning. Set it all down here, at the door. You won't need any of it tonight. Tonight I want to take you somewhere very far away, north, further north than most people ever go, to the edge of the known world, as people understood it once, where the land ends and the sea begins, where the sky is enormous and cold and full of stars, where the wind has been blowing without stopping for longer than anyone can remember. There is a man standing at the edge of the water. His name is Ulf. He is old. He has been a Jarl, a lord, a chieftain, for 40 years. He has sailed further than almost any man alive. He has fought battles that are still spoken of around fires. He has built a village from nothing and watched it become something. And 3 weeks ago, his last son was killed in battle, far to the south, in a land Ulf has never seen. Tonight, Ulf is standing at the edge of the sea, looking out at the water, for perhaps the last time. Come and stand beside him, breathe the cold, salt air, and let the sea carry you to sleep. It is late autumn in Norway, perhaps the year 950. The sun set hours ago, earlier than it does in summer. The days are short now and growing shorter. By midwinter there will be only a few hours of pale gray light between the long dark nights. But tonight the sky is clear. The stars are out in their full northern abundance, not the soft scattered stars of more southern lands. These are hard, bright, cold stars, stars that feel close, that feel like they are watching. The sea moves slowly in the darkness below the cliff where Ulf stands. Long, low swells rolling in from the west, rising and falling, rising and falling. The sound of them against the rocks below, not violent, not crashing, just a deep rhythmic breathing, like something enormous and alive, resting. Ulf has been standing here for a long time. He does not know exactly how long. He came here after the evening meal, when the hall had grown too loud and too warm, and too full of the careful, worried faces of people who did not know what to say to him. They mean well. He knows they mean well, but he needed the cold. He needed the dark. He needed the sea. He is a tall man even now, though age has curved his shoulders slightly. His hair and beard are white, have been white for years. His face is deeply lined, the skin weathered to the texture of old leather by decades of wind and salt air and cold. His hands, wrapped around a walking staff of dark wood, are large and scarred, the hands of a man who has worked them his whole life. He stands very still, looking out at the water. His breath makes small white clouds in the cold air. His son's name was Leif. He was 28 years old, the last of 3 sons. The first, Eric, had died of fever at 19, before he had even become a warrior. The second gunner had been lost at sea 8 years ago, a storm in the northern waters. No body ever recovered. And now, Leif, killed in a raid gone wrong somewhere on the coast of England. 3 weeks ago. A messenger had come at dawn, 12 days after the battle. A young man, barely older than Leif had been, standing at the door of the hall with his hat in his hands and his eyes on the ground. Ulf had known before the boy spoke. You always know. There is a particular quality to the silence before bad news, a heaviness in the air, something that changes in the room. He had listened to the messenger's account without moving, without speaking, without changing his expression. He had thanked the boy, told him to eat and rest, then walked out of the hall and down to the water. He had stood here for a long time that day, too. The sea had looked exactly the same as it always did, indifferent, moving, eternal. Leif had been the quietest of the three boys. Eric had been loud, physical, always in motion, the kind of child who filled a room just by entering it. Gunnar had been clever, watchful, always slightly apart, observing, but Leif had been quiet. He spoke carefully, when he spoke at all. He listened more than he talked. He had a habit of sitting very still and watching people's faces when they spoke, as if he were reading something in them that others could not see. He had been like his mother in that way. Ulf thinks of this now. His wife Astrid had died 12 years ago. Fever, as fever always came, quickly and without fairness. She had been ill for 9 days. On the 10th day she was gone. She had been the stillness at the center of their life together, the quiet around which everything else moved. Leif had inherited that quality, that capacity for stillness. Ulf had always found it both comforting and slightly mysterious. He himself had never been still, not as a young man, not as a middle-aged man, not even now. His mind moved constantly, always planning, always calculating, always looking ahead. Leif had been able to simply be somewhere, without needing it to be anything else. Ulf had admired that in his son, had never quite found the words to tell him so. This is one of the things he sits with tonight, the words he never found. Ulf had been made Jarl at 29. His own father had died suddenly, a hunting accident, swift and senseless, and the responsibility had fallen to Ulf before he felt ready for it. He had not shown his lack of readiness. That was the first lesson of leadership. He had learned quickly, whatever you feel inside, you show only what needs to be shown. Steadiness, confidence, a sense that you know what comes next, even when you do not, especially when you do not. He had led his first raid at 30, 12 ships, 40 men. They had gone south along the coast, trading where they could trade, taking where they had to. That was the way of things. He had come home with enough silver to rebuild the village hall, and with 4 fewer men than he had left with. He had stood at the shore and watched the families of those 4 men come down to meet the ships, had watched the moment when they understood. He had done that many times since. It never became easier. He had always believed, still believed, that the worst part of leadership was not the decisions themselves. It was carrying the weight of their consequences, the faces of the people who paid the price for choices he had made. He had made good choices, mostly, or at least he told himself so. The village had grown. The people had been fed. The winters had been survived. But the 4 men from the first raid, and others since, he still knew their names, all of them. He had never allowed himself to forget. The sea had been Ulf's whole life, not just the raids, not just the fighting, the sea itself, the act of being on it. He had made his first voyage at 14 as a junior crew member on his uncle's ship. 3 weeks at sea, trading along the coast. He had been seasick for the first 2 days. Then something had shifted, and he had never been seasick again. He remembered the feeling of that first open water, when the coast disappeared behind them and there was nothing in any direction but water and sky. Most of the crew had been below or busy with the rigging, but Ulf had stood at the prow and looked at the horizon. The horizon at sea is different from the horizon on land. On land, the horizon is always interrupted by hills, by trees, by buildings. But at sea, on a clear day, the horizon is a perfect clean line, a circle really with the ship at its center. And standing there, at 14, for the first time, Ulf had felt something he could not name then, and could still not quite name now. A feeling of being exactly the right size, not small in a frightening way, small in the way that feels correct, the way a single note is small inside a piece of music, but is exactly where it belongs. He had chased that feeling his whole life. On every voyage, on every open stretch of water, he had found it again. It was the closest thing to peace he had ever known, until Astrid, and now both were gone. The wind picks up slightly, a steady push from the west, carrying the smell of deep ocean, the smell of distance, of cold water and salt and vast empty space. Ulf pulls his cloak tighter. It is a heavy cloak, wool lined with fur, one of the warmest he has owned. Leif had given it to him 2 winters ago, had traded for it himself somewhere south, and brought it home without saying anything until he placed it in his father's hands. Ulf had worn it every winter since. He looks down at the fabric now, dark wool, slightly rough under his fingers. He breathes. Below the cliff, the sea continues its slow movement, rising and falling, rising and falling. The rhythm of it is ancient, older than the Norse, older than any people who have ever stood on this cliff and looked out at this water. The sea was moving this way before there were human eyes to watch it. It will move this way long after the last human eye has closed. Ulf finds this thought, which would frighten some people, deeply comforting. The world does not need him. It never did. It was here before him. It will be here after. His sons were here briefly. He has been here briefly. And the sea has watched all of it with the same indifferent, steady motion. There is something clean about that, something honest. Ulf has navigated by stars his whole life. He knows the northern sky the way he knows the lines on his own hands. The North Star, the fixed point, the one thing in the sky that never moves. He has used it to find his way home from waters so far from Norway that he could not see any coastline in any direction. Just the star, steady and cold and reliable above him. Home is that way, always that way. Follow the star north and eventually the land appears. He looks up at it now, bright and still above him. He thinks of all the nights he has looked at this same star from different places, from the deck of a ship in a storm, clinging to the rigging, using the star to hold on to his sense of direction when everything else was chaos. From the shore of a foreign land, far to the south, where the star was lower in the sky, closer to the horizon, and he had felt the strangeness of that distance deep in his chest. From the ice fields far to the north, where he had gone once as a young man, foolishly, further than was wise, and the star had been almost directly overhead, and the world had been white and silent in every direction. He has lived a large life. He knows this, larger than most. He has seen things that most people in this village will never see, stood in places that have no names in any language he speaks, looked at horizons that no Norse eye had looked at before. And all of it, every voyage, every storm, every strange coast, has led back here, to this cliff, to this sea, to this star. What remains at the end of a life? Ulf turns this question in his mind slowly, not with urgency, not with grief, just turning it, the way you turn a stone in your hand, feeling its weight, its edges. The village remains. He built it, or helped to build it, which is close enough. The hall, the houses, the dock, the smokehouse, the small stone building they use for storage. He has watched it grow from a handful of families to something larger. something that will outlast him by generations. The people remain, his people, not his possession. He never thought of them that way, but his responsibility, his charge. He knows most of them by name, knows their children's names, knows which families have feuds that need careful managing, and which ones can be trusted to sort their own disputes. He has held this community together through 3 hard winters and 1 summer plague, and more smaller crises than he can count. They will be fine without him. He has made sure of that. His nephew Bjorn is ready, 35, steady, respected by the men, not as bold as Ulf had been at that age, but that is not necessarily a fault. Boldness had cost Ulf much over the years. A little more caution might serve the village well. What else remains? The stories. He can hear them already in his mind, the way they will be told around fires in the years after he is gone, the voyage to the ice fields, the storm of 932, when they lost 2 ships and brought the other 4 home through water that should have killed them all. The raid where Ulf had fought 3 men at once and walked away. Stories grow in the telling. He knows this. By the time his grandchildren's children hear these stories, he will be enormous, impossible, legendary. He will be nothing like the old man standing on this cliff in a borrowed cloak. He almost smiles at this. The night is very deep now. Past midnight, certainly. The stars have moved, not visibly, not in any single moment, but measurably if you watch long enough. The great wheel of the sky turning slowly as it always turns. Ulf is tired, not sleepy exactly, something deeper than that. A tiredness that goes through the body and into whatever is underneath. A tiredness of the whole self. He has been tired like this before. After great voyages, after great battles, after great losses. It always passed. He is not sure this one will, and he finds he does not mind. He has had enough. Not in a bitter way, not in a way that wants to die. Just enough. The way a man feels at the end of a long, full day, when the fire is burning low and the hall is quiet and there is nothing more to do today. That feeling. Just that. He thinks of Leif, not of the death, not of the messenger at the door, of an afternoon, perhaps 5 years ago. Leif had come to find him here, at this same cliff, had stood beside him in silence for a long time, just the 2 of them and the sea. Then Leif had said quietly, "You love this more than anything, don't you?" It had not been a question. Ulf had thought about it for a moment, then said, "Second most." Leif had understood. They had stood together a while longer, then walked back to the village side by side, without speaking, in the particular comfortable silence of 2 people who know each other very well. Ulf holds that afternoon now, holds it carefully. The way you hold something you know you are going to set down soon. The sea moves below him, rising, falling, rising, falling. Ulf breathes with it, without deciding to, without thinking about it, just breathing, in time with something that has no beginning and no end. The stars above him are very bright, the North Star, steady and cold and true. He has followed it home 100 times. It will be there tomorrow night, and the night after, and long after there is no one left who remembers his name. He closes his eyes, for just a moment, lets the sound of the sea fill everything, that deep, slow breathing of the water, rising and falling, rising and falling. Let your own breath match it now, slow and wide and deep, in and out, in and out. Feel the weight of your body, heavy and still, like the cliff above the sea, Like the old Jarl standing at the edge of the world, you have done enough today. You have carried enough. There is nothing more required of you tonight. Just this breath, and this quiet, and the sound of something ancient and vast and steady beneath everything. The sea does not hurry. The stars do not hurry, and neither do you. Let everything slow now. Let everything soften. Down and down and down into the deep, still water of sleep. Sleep well, traveler. The sea is keeping watch tonight, and it has been keeping watch for a very long time.